How y'all doing? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Yo-Yo, and I am here today to read you some news. It's actually quite surprising news. Maybe it's not really that surprising, actually. I didn't do my hair today, and I really don't give a shit. Anyway, so yeah, I guess this isn't really surprising news. But the Pope silent on claims he ignored abuse. And the reason I say I'm not really that surprised is because the Catholic Church, I mean, if like the leader of the mafia, right? If there were to be a headline that said leader of mafia silent on mafia abuse, I wouldn't be surprised. It's it's just a known fact that the church, the Catholic Church, is filled with predators. I don't even want to call it a church. Another curious thing, though, and this is something that I used to hear as a child, and I'll be honest with you, it's kind of crazy, actually, and I didn't think it would ever happen, is apparently there is some sort of prophecy, Saint Malachi or something like that. I haven't read about this in a really long time, so please forgive me. I might actually make another video about this, but apparently there is a prophecy in the church where towards the end of the world there will be two popes. Two popes around, and there are two popes right now, and I guess I can't really even remember the whole thing of this prophecy, but apparently, that's gonna signal the end of the church or something like that, something crazy like that. I really can't. Maybe if I look it up, it might come up. Prediction. See, Saint Malachi prediction. Prophecy of the Pope. Prophetia Sancti Malachiae Archiepiscopi de Summis Pontificibus is a series of 112 short cryptic phrases in Latin which purport to predict the Roman Catholic popes, along with a few anti-popes, beginning with Pope Celestine II. The alleged prophecies were first published by Benedictine monk Arnold Wyon in 1595. Wyon attributes the prophecies to Saint Malachi, a 12th century archbishop of Armagh, Ireland. Given the very accurate descriptions of Pope up to 1590, the lack of accuracy for popes that follow, historians generally conclude that the alleged prophecies are a fabrication written shortly before they were published. Certain theologians in the Roman Catholic Church have dismissed them as forgery. The Catholic Church has no official stance on the prophecies, however. The prophecies concluded with a pope identified as Peter the Roman, whose pontificate will allegedly precede the destruction of Rome. Okay, so maybe this has nothing to do with what I was just talking about. However, I did read prophecies and things like that of towards the end of the world there'll be two popes and this and that and blah blah blah, and that's going to reign in the end of the world. The thing about that is that the Catholics don't really believe that the book of Revelation is talking about the end of the world. It's actually a text for first century Christians. I've actually talked about this in the podcast before, because the book of Revelation and apocalyptic prophecy are some of my favorite subjects to cover. Anyway, that's not what I'm going to talk about now, though. What I'm going to talk about now is Pope silent on claims he ignored abuse. And I'll actually post a link of this article to the description of this podcast. But anyway, I'm going to read this news a little bit, and then I'm going to comment, as I always do. Vatican City, AFP. Pope Francis has declined to comment on a claim that he ignored sexual abuse allegations against a senior clergyman. Amid speculation, conservative elements in the Catholic Church hierarchy are using the issue to mount a push to remove the liberal pontiff. Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, a former Vatican envoy to the United States, on Saturday said he told Francis of the allegations against prominent U.S. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick in 2013, but rather than punish McCarrick, he was forced to resign last month. Vigano said Francis had lifted sanctions imposed on him by his predecessor, Pope Benedict the, what is that, 5-6, so the 16th. Oh shit, my bad, I should have known that. Anyway, it's really hard to, read Latin numerals though quickly like that, at least for me. Corruption has reached the very top of the church's hierarchy, Vigano said in a letter published in the National Catholic Register and several conservative U.S. Catholic publications. But the Pope refused to address the allegations on Sunday. Okay. I will not say a word about that. I think that the communiqué speaks for itself, Francis said on his plane as he flew back from Dublin to Rome. The timing of the letter's release, right in the middle of Francis' landmark trip to Ireland, has raised speculations of a campaign against the Argentine pontiff by conservatives in the church. Francis told journalists to read the communiqué attentively and make your own judgment, referring to Vigano's letter, which called on the Pope to resign. So there's already a Pope that resigned over sexual abuse allegations, and now they want to call on another Pope to resign over sexual abuse allegations. And look, the other Pope that resigned, it was on sexual abuse allegations. They don't talk about it, but that is the case. He covered up a crime wherein he knew about priests raping children in a choir, and he didn't do anything about that. And he was bishop at the time, or archbishop, I believe, under those or over those people, and he didn't know anything about it. So, yeah, this is the thing. Child sexual abuse is endemic in the church, and that seems a little harsh to say, but think about it. You have these people who, priests, look, and I'm not saying all priests are like this, hell no, but usually when there are people that join the priesthood because they genuinely want to serve humanity and things like that, but then there are also people who think that by joining the priesthood, they're gonna, God's gonna cleanse them of proclivities they may have and things like that, homosexuality, and pedophilia and things like that. And they think that by giving themselves over to God, that's going to solve the problem. The thing is that it doesn't work that way. And also there's just people that are vicious predators and really satanic. And, I mean that figuratively, but also metaphorically. Or not I mean it figuratively, but also literally, if you want to take it that way. That they know that they can prey on people easier from that position of power, and they also, think that they're God, just because they're priests. And I think that that's a problem with priests in general, not just in the Catholic Church, but in religions in general, is that they begin to align themselves with the God that they're supposed to represent. Then they end up thinking that they're the God. And yeah, that is a fact. That is a thing that happens. this is crazy, man. You know, yeah, it's rotten to the core, and then it doesn't help. I don't want to get all biblical here. I really don't want to get all biblical here, but the Bible says that it doesn't even talk about priests. I mean, it does talk about priests in the Old Testament, but that's another thing. That's for a completely different religion, which is odd, right? That you would have the instructions of a different religion in your holy book, but that's a whole other discussion for another podcast. But I would say that the thing about oh fuck, what was I talking about? Anyway, the thing about this stuff, right? Catholic priests, is that Catholic priests, well, there's no justification in the Bible for priests in Christianity. The Bible says, it talks about bishops, and it talks about preachers and things like that, and then it also says that a bishop will be the husband of one wife, and you know, bishops aren't, you know, they're the husbands of their hand. I'm not sure. It also says, don't call no man father but thy Father in heaven. Catholic priests call themselves father, so that's another thing that they're doing against the Bible. But even all that, look, even beside all that, it's not right to, and I understand that a lot of, you know, the idea behind celibacy in the church is that you're living a consecrated life and things like that. But you know, in the Bible, Jesus says that not everybody can do that. Not everybody can live celibate and live like he did, and he actually doesn't really advise that. So that's another thing. So rude. Anyway, so yeah, there are just really severe problems with the Catholic priesthood, and they're not going to be resolved until it's really abolished or changed in a significant way. Yeah, that's just the only way that that those problems will be solved. Anyway, in his 11-page testimony, Vigano, 77, who was a papal nuncio in Washington between 2011 and 2016, said Benedict XVI imposed canonical sanctions against McCormick in the late 2000s. McCarrick was forced to leave his seminary and live a life of penance after former Vatican ambassadors in Washington, now dead, reported him for gravely immoral behavior with seminarians and priests, homosexual networks. Vigano claimed Francis asked about McCarrick when he took office in June 2013 that the Pope ignored his warnings. He said the Pope knew from at least June 23rd, 2013 that McCarrick was a serial predator, adding that he knew that he was a corrupt man. He covered for him to the bitter end. The Pope accepted the resignation of McCarrick, now 88, in July, making him just the second cardinal ever to lose his status. In his letter, Vigano condemned the culture of secrecy in the church, but also railed against the homosexual current he claimed was prevalent in the highest echelons of the Vatican and contributing to a conspiracy of silence over abuse. The homosexual networks present in the church must be eradicated, he said. These homosexual networks are strangling the entire church. Now, I don't want to blame it on homosexuality. I don't think that's the problem with the church. The problem with the church is pedophilia. That's really what this cardinal has to address, or the nuncio, whoever the hell this gentleman, Vigano, is. I really don't respect him. I don't respect the Pope or any other Catholic clergy for that matter. So I really don't care about calling them by their proper titles. They don't deserve my respect, and they haven't earned my respect. So whatever their title may be. But this Vigano, that's the thing. he's saying that it's homosexual networks, and that's not the problem. There may be homosexuals, there may be gay people in the church, as long as they're not abusing kids. They're breaking church law, and things like that. But I mean, who cares? The Catholic Church is a corrupt institution anyway. That's anachronistic, and it needs to be overthrown. And it's not a good organization. The problem is that they're defending pedophiles, and people feel that a lot of pedophiles and a lot of deviants, sexual deviants, predators, because look, if you are a priest and you're using your priesthood to engage in a gay relationship with somebody underneath you, that's not right. Even if you're engaging in a heterosexual relationship, you're in a position of power, so it's not right for you to do that. Predators are attracted to this church because when you're a priest in this church, you're given a ton of prestige, undue prestige. Because if you're supposed to be a man of God, well, Jesus was despised of all men. So it just, that's one of the things that it says in the Bible, and I know I'm quoting the Bible a lot here. I promise you I'm not trying to preach. But what I am saying is that under the book that these people believe in, it's warning them against every sin they're committing. And it's just baffling that, well, they don't even crack open the book. Bibles are gathering dust in churches, in Catholic churches all over the world. It's really crazy. The U.S. Cardinals Monday defended themselves against Vigano's allegations of a cover-up. Cardinal Joseph Tobin of Newark, a progressive, expressed shock, sadness, and consternation at the wide-ranging allegations, and Cardinal Donald Wuerl of Washington denied any knowledge that his predecessor had been either sanctioned or accused of abuse. And this is where it gets really crazy. A push is afoot. Make no mistake, this is a coordinated attack on Pope Francis, said an editorial article on the website of the Progressive National Catholic Reporter Weekly. A push is afoot, and if the U.S. bishops do not, as a body, stand up to defend the Father in the next 24 hours, we shall be slipping towards schism. The author Michael Sean Winters wrote, "The enemies of Francis have declared war." Nicolas Seneze, the Rome correspondent for the French daily La Croix, echoed that there is a clear desire to attack Francis, telling AFP that those who regard Francis as dangerous will stop at nothing. Among ultra-conservative Catholics, the Pope is regarded as it's crazy how they say ultra-conservatives. I think it's among conservatives in general. The Pope is regarded as a dangerous progressive, more interested in social issues than traditional church matters. Jesus spoke against the Pharisees because they were more worried of traditionalism than they were about God. And here are the Catholics worrying about tradition. Yeah, you should only follow the Bible if you claim to be a Christian. Catholics aren't Christians, though. They really aren't. It's a cult. With many more conciliatory approach to the gay community, Francis has raised hopes among that he might stir the church to bad Google writing or internet age writing. With his more conciliatory approach to the gay community, Francis has raised hopes among that he might steer the church towards greater acceptance of homosexuality, but he remains in line with traditional church teachings on sexuality and marriage. Abuse scandal. During his visit to Ireland on Sunday, the Pope begged for God's forgiveness for past clerical abuse scandals which have badly damaged the image of the church in the Catholic stronghold. His trip was met with enthusiastic crowds but also protests, with about 5,000 abuse victims and supporters attending a Stand for Truth rally in the capital, Dublin. The Catholic Church's standing has been badly dented by the abuse scandals. Stronghold Ireland has largely shed its traditional Catholic mores, voting earlier this year to legalize abortion after approving same-sex marriage in 2015. Multiple probes in Ireland have found church leaders protected hundreds of predatory priests, and former Irish President Mary McAleese revealed this month that the Vatican had sought to keep church documents inaccessible to government investigators. The abuse scandals in Ireland are part of a worldwide crisis for the Vatican. A devastating report earlier this month accused more than, and this is crazy, I talked about this in the podcast earlier this month, more than 300 priests in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania of abusing more than 1,000 children since the 1950s. Just 1,000. Actually, it's in the thousands. It's just more than 1,000 because they don't really know the number, that the exact number. Okay. That's so crazy. That is so crazy. And it's only 300 priests because we really don't know what documents we really don't know what documents the church has hidden. It's really terrifying. And we as a society, we have to be careful. Do we want... I'm a man. I always... When I hear things of toxic masculinity, when I hear complaints of toxic masculinity, it drives me crazy because I'm like, well, what the fuck do you want me to do? You know, I play sports. I fucking go hiking every day. I talk shit to my friends. I open doors for women, so I'm what is it, benevolently sexist, you know? Any of that doesn't seem bad to me. When I hear toxic masculinity, I hope and pray people are talking about this, about predators who join, beta males, really. That's toxic masculinity, is really being a beta male. And it's positioning yourself to be in a position of power so that you can better gratify your base needs. I think that a real man, and I don't want to get into, philosophical discussions of real men and blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to white knight. I really don't give a fuck who agrees with me or not, on this point at least. But what I'm saying is that when I think of toxic masculinity, I think of the Catholic Church. These people are positioning themselves in a very weasel-like way to take advantage of children, women, and men. And, that's really where the toxic masculinity is. And we need to start, if we're really going to talk about toxic masculinity and things like that, this is where we really need to start. It's the Catholic priesthood has to be abolished. There is no way that we can permit a club of predators to just be free and do whatever the hell they want and have no consequences for that. That's sickening to me. We really have to think about what we're doing. And as for schism in the church, it wouldn't be the first time that the Catholic Church has schisms. A schism means a separation from the church, and a separation of the church. So the word Catholic in Latin means universal. So the Catholic Church means the universal church. Why is it called that? Well, because back in the day, in the Roman Empire, it was the universal church. There was a bishop of Rome. He was the patriarch of Rome. There's a patriarch in Constantinople, patriarch in Jerusalem, patriarch in Antioch, a bunch of patriarchs. As time went by, the Pope declared that because Rome was the capital of the empire, it was the mother church of all other churches, and he was supreme above all the other patriarchs, and that's where the first great schism came about. The patriarchs in the east, in the Greek-speaking part of the Roman Empire, of what had been the Roman Empire, which actually at that time it still was the Eastern Roman Empire. They disagreed with the Pope, and they were like, "Well, fuck that. We're gonna do our thing." And they separated, and then the Pope separated, and then there were other schisms. There was anti-popes, things like that, and then the other big schism was the schism of the Reformation. The Protestants separated from the Catholic Church. Now, why is it that this church has suffered so many schisms and separations? It's the simple answer is because it's corrupt, and it's just a corrupt, evil, wicked thing. It's of its father, the devil. There's nothing holy about the Catholic Church. I'm sorry, and I don't want to offend Catholics. I'm not some holier than thou person. I really am not, man. But yeah, the Catholic Church is just a wicked, evil thing. It goes against everything that Christianity is, that the Bible is, that the gospel is. It really does. And it's a wicked thing, and it really has to be abolished. And these scandals, are just proof positive that this church really, really, really needs to be abandoned, and nobody should go back. And yeah, and look, there's gonna be the potential. Look, if there is another schism within the Catholic Church, that could spell the end for the Catholic Church, because Europeans are not Catholic. Plus, they're getting invaded by Muslims. So it might be a situation where, in the future, all the Catholic churches turn to mosques, because, Europeans are becoming increasingly secular. And Islam is really taking over in a big way, religiously, in Europe. I don't want to get into discussions of the merits or demerits of that shit. I'm just putting it out there. It is a fact. And then the church's strongholds are really in Africa and Latin America and other places like that, Philippines, things like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's it at the very least will change it will definitely change the face of the Catholic Church. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Well, not for today. I'll be back in a little bit making more videos. But yeah, just just pray for these people, pray for these victims, and I don't know. It's really crazy. This stuff is really insane.